win.
I mean, really. Like, let me ask that genuinely. Do you really think that players are not going to create something like that? They're not going to create, but it's not the same fucking game. Well, it is the same fucking game. What do you mean? But they're literally called World of Warcraft. Yeah, it's a different expansion, but it's the same idea. Like, it's not abstract enough for the game, the expansion to matter. Okay? Of course they will. Yeah, of course they're going to matter. Yeah, let's be honest, guys. They're going to have a gear score add-on or some sort of website. This is probably what they're going to do. They're probably going to have a website that tracks every single thing a player does at in-game, right, in some way or another. And then they use that tracker, and there's like an API, or like not API, I don't know what it is, but it's like an add-on that utilizes that website and pulls it into the game. Right? Like, this is just how it's going to work. And you can get mad about this all you want, but this is how the game is probably going to function. API is correct? I'm not 100% sure. But the idea is going to be the same. They are going to create a gear score for Classic WoW. And you can be like, well, it's not going to be in-game. Raider.io isn't in-game, but people still use it, and they use it like a fucking Bible in Mythic Plus. And I'm not even saying that's a bad thing. But the point that I'm making is that these systems are going to exist whether you like them or not. They even existed back in real Classic WoW. It's just that they were much more abstract. You would just have you just go to the bank steps, and then you get kicked out of the raid because the raid leader didn't understand why you were using this gear, because nobody understood anything about the game back then. Right? This has always been the case with WoW. Wowhead, what is this here? Let me go ahead and look at this real quick. Clarification on Twink experience. Oh, okay. Okay, so Blizzard, just 1 second. Let me go ahead and I'll pull this up. Blizzard actually made a response for this. Let's see. Blizzard clarified, affect groups that manually invite players who have experience off. This won't happen. This change only affects groups that manually invite player characters who have experience off. There is no impact on players who find themselves automatically grouped with a matchmaker, a PvP group, a dungeon finder group. That does make a lot of sense. That's very good. This change also doesn't affect anyone who's turned off experience zone for their own benefit, such as plundering old raids while keeping on their level enough to use their Agrimar Stride boots. Okay. Yeah, it makes sense, I guess. All right, let's go to the next one. Don't forget the blacklist and the list for in-game content. Yeah, I mean, they do plenty of blacklists, and like, there's going to be a million things like that people are going to do, okay? Like, Classic WoW is going to be very different now that the internet is more integrated into our, our like, community.
Guide you.
What's up, guys? Classic Wins back again. Have you ever wondered what it's like to be in a top vanilla WoW guild? I'm sure a lot of us aspire to be in one, but not many people actually know the details of being a member. So today, we're here to talk about hardcore vanilla WoW raiding guilds. How are raiding guilds different in vanilla compared to how they will be in classic? I'd say that casual guilds will feel basically the same. Even progression guilds will feel very similar, but the very top guilds
yeah, it would make sense.
will be very different. That's because of the amount of min-maxing that's been discovered over the years, improvements in strategies, the experience players have gained, and the advances in technology over the years. Things like Discord, texting, applications on your phone, things.
What does Uber Eats have to do? Oh, because your mom isn't there to bring you food anymore. Right? Because now you're 33 and, like, you're living on your own. So you have to have Uber Eats bring you food now instead of your mom. Okay, I see how it works.
Like that. Before we begin, I'll say that 99.9% of guilds won't do all the things I talk about, but it's expected that they will do a large amount. So don't be scared by this stuff. These are just extreme examples meant to educate you so that you have an idea of what may be expected in a top guild. So basically, what is a hardcore guild and who are they made for? So in my opinion, hardcore guilds are basically communists. The definition of communism is an economic system in which the property and resources are primarily controlled and owned by everyone. So when somebody else in the guild gets an item like a Perdition's Blade, you should be happy. That's like you getting the item. Think of it like this. You're not an individual. You are the guild.
I've never been like this, dude. Like, everybody always talks about how happy they are for somebody else to get gear. I've always been like the most selfish fuck whenever it comes to raiding and like this kind of stuff. Like, if somebody else gets a piece of gear that I don't fucking have, I'm mad, dude. I'm so mad. Like, I don't care. It's like, yeah, okay, maybe we can kill the boss faster, but can I kill the boss faster? I don't give a fuck, dude. Like, whenever I go into raids, I have like a list of my BIS on like the second monitor, or back then on like, a notepad document, or on, like wowbis.com. And that was all I was thinking about. All I cared about was the gear, boys. That was all it mattered.
Idea. In my experience, being a selfish player in a hardcore guild does not work. If all you care about is loot, you'll probably have a bad time, because 40-man raids drop very few items. Also, guild goals are guild accomplishments. Things like ringing the gong and Thunder Fury, these are guild efforts. This is not an individual effort. Method's recruitment post for BFA is basically what the top classic guilds are going to follow as well. When it comes to criticism, you should be able to handle constructive criticism if and when it's directed at you. Commitment. All applicants should have a good attitude towards raiding. You will be required to dedicate yourself to min-maxing not only your main character, but also maintain alt characters. During progression raids, the schedule is very demanding, raiding 12 to 15 hours a day, and it's really important you understand this before even thinking about applying or approaching someone in the guild. That way you don't waste their time or your time. And for Classic, those time requirements do sound fairly accurate, but you probably won't spend the 12 hours a day raiding. You'll spend
I don't see like how they're gonna do hardcore guilds in Classic WoW, right? Like I don't understand how you do that. Now, the only way that I think it would make sense is if you're leveling multiple 60s, so you can fill up different raids and then feed all of the tier gear to specific people. And it's like, I mean, because what do you do after like the third week? Like, is the guild just over then? Because whenever the new raid comes out, like, yeah, you play really hard for like a week or so, like maybe a few days. I mean, realistically for BWL and stuff, like a few days. And then what happens after that? 40-man split raid, speed run? Yeah, I get speed running. Like, that's the only way that I could ever see it making any sense. Content's not that hard? Yeah, I don't think so at all. You farm gold consumables for phase 2 rank 14 grind. Yeah, I mean, I guess that might be it. But I mean, I don't know like how many people would really be invested in that. But maybe I'm going to be wrong with that. We'll see.
Ton of time preparing for the raids. And we'll look into that over the course of the video. If you think all hardcore guilds do is raid, you'll be very surprised, because there's a ton of requirements that have very little to do with raiding. Let's look at some of the less known requirements these guilds often have. Level 20 Warlock alts. Everyone in a guild may be required to have a level 20
So
Warlock.
Soulstone?
That way, if you have to move 40 people to locations like raid entrances, world boss spawn locations,
oh, just for summons, okay.
It's very easy and quick.
I thought I did that for Soulstones.
Wherever you're told, there'll be a designated location, and you'll often be expected to have a clicker alt as well, which is just like a level 1 character that's kept in the same spot so you can click portals to summon other people. Raid taxes. So some guilds may require you to pay around 20 gold to attend each raid that you go to. The gold will typically all go to the guild bank, which is a guild alt character, because there are no actual banks in Classic.
Oh, we're gonna do
when you clear the raid, the bosses drop a certain amount of gold, and then the gold that's taken is then used for the guild, so you can get your tanks like fire resist, or a nightfall weapon for the guild, or even find a scarab lord. Alright, world bosses.
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
Are typically camped by top guilds.
Yeah, we will do that.
It's through scouting.
It's a good idea.
When a world boss dies, they won't respawn for a few days. So after a few days go by, you'll have scouts on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're gonna explore the area with an add-on, which will alert you when the mob is in the area. Sort of like this.
Oh, that's the Timos Proto-Drake one. Okay. Yeah, I remember that.
This is where the technology part that I mentioned earlier comes into play. Because these days when you're scouting, if the world boss spawns, you have to get the message out to everyone in the guild. So how do they do that? Typically it's through Discord. They'll set up a world boss channel in Discord. You type in there that Azurgos or Kazakh is spawned and everybody needs to get on. The message goes out to their phones, and it's expected that you'll drop whatever you're doing and you're going to get online and come
because you have nothing better to do.
Scouting is usually a mandatory requirement for guilds to do at least a few hours if you expect to get loot. So, reputation. Some recipes are locked behind harsh rep grinds. So what we used to do was we used to recruit social players who were expected to grind these reps and craft these items for us. In exchange,
we did this too. Like, we'd recruit socials just basically to be slaves for the guild and farm materials. And in thanks to them, after we cleared the raids enough times, we'd bring them in through the raids and get them some gear, right? And we even had, like, my mom would do this for our guild too. And we'd, like, take her through Nax and stuff like that. But she wasn't actually in the guild. She would just, like, give us consumables and stuff. And I remember there was this one time, I remember this very, very clearly. This was in Nax Ramus, like 80 version, like Wrath of the Lich King. We had decided that, you know, like, it was time for her to get her chance to do some raids. And she goes in there. And while her actual guild was wiping on the spider wing of Nax Tin Man, she killed Kel'Thuzad 25 man. That achievement popped up. I went over, I'm like, what'd you get? How do you feel? And she's like, I'm happy. There's somebody that put a triple dot. The triple dot in guild chat right after she got the achievement. They were trying to hold her back. They were upset. They were very, very mad that she obviously got this great thing. And they're sitting there wiping in a spider wing, trying to decide if they need to use a flask to kill a new Brakan.
Sometimes give them BOE trash items, which nobody would need. So it works out well for people who don't want to raid, but still want to be in the top guild. That way they still contribute to you guys. Most guilds expect you to raid on ults. That way you can funnel the gear into a player's main character.
Yep.
This one's probably more well known. Having 2 or 3 ults in Classic is actually very difficult. So the idea is that since less items drop if you just have one raid group, it's pretty unlikely that you're going to obtain a full set of best in slot items before the next raid tier.
Obviously.
So this way, if you have multiple raid groups with ults, you funnel the gear to like 20 people between 2 groups. So 20 people in each group of 40 get super geared. That way when the next content releases, you combine the 2 groups of 20 into a super group, and then the 40 people go in and clear it slightly quicker than everybody else. Basically, that's the idea of min-maxing. Alright, so where do these guilds begin? A lot of these guilds are actually already recruiting their rosters in preparation for Classic WoW's launch. And before you even log in on day 1, it's probably expected that you'll know the following things. You'll have picked a race that is best for the role. Sorry, Tauren Hunters and Night Elf Priests. You probably don't fit in these types of guilds.
Nope, no
You'll already
free
have
reward.
your name, class, and spec decided. That way, when you level up to 60, you already know exactly what your role is. Have the time to level up whenever Classic WoW launches. So whether this means booking time off of work, skipping dates, abandoning your family, ditching your friends, whatever you need to do.
There it is,
Study
dude.
and learn leveling routes,
This is
quests,
smart.
strategies, and anything else that will help you hit level 60 as soon as possible. So now that you've decided that, we can fast forward to the launch. While leveling, gold, recipes, and BOE items are typically shared. So that means if your tank hit level 40 and only has 60 gold, it's probably expected that if you have the extra gold, you're going to spot that money to them so that they can buy their mount so they can level faster and get things started. When a pre-raid best in slot item, like one of these drops, you may be expected to give them to the members who benefit from it the most.
See, this is another problem, is that, like, I would never do that either. Like, this would never happen, because I would want to sell it. So the guilds that would make me want to do this, I said this before, I would actually mail my BOE items to my mom's guild bank alt, and then sell them to launder the money so nobody in the guild could track the items back to me, and then she would mail me the gold back to my character. And that way I could get as much stuff as possible. This is what I would always fucking do. Like, I was actually, as I said, man, like, I was in it to win it, man. I was in it for that loot. I was in it as much as I possibly fucking could be, dude. Okay,
it's not about personal gain, it's about the society's gain, communism. And then there's usually a very strict timeline that you're expected to follow to hit level 60. I've seen some guilds asking for 7 days. I think this is insane personally, but I think it should be
10 days is normal.
And dedicated.
I'd say 10 days.
Level 60, you've done dungeons, you got your pre-raid best in slot, time to raid, right? No, still not yet. So you're gonna have to farm consumables.
Platinum AV
here's
video.
An example
Watch this
of
first.
A Fury Warriors list of consumables before a raid night. You're probably not gonna use the entire list of consumables every night, but it's expected that you'll have them. And then you're gonna need to be on an hour or so early before raids typically to get your world buffs going. And what are some of the things the guild may control? Professions. Often engineering is a requirement, as it's a big DPS boost to have, because of things like bombs, chickens, or engineering-specific gear.
Those sapper charges are fucking ridiculous.
For the guild. That
They're
way they
so
can make
good.
Arcanite bars for the guild's needs. I already mentioned it earlier, but your spec. Sometimes one person is assigned to be a spec that will boost other players' DPS, like the Frost Mage buff.
I wish they had that more now. I love that.
Hearthstone locations may be demanded to be set at locations such as when doing Nax Ramis, Light's Hope Chapel, for AQ, Cenarian Hold, and for Molten Core's Horde, maybe Kargath. Alright, and lastly, meme specs. Typically a guild will not allow you to bring a meme spec. However, since there are alt runs,
he's gonna show a Ret Paladin. Watch.
So if your dream third hardcore raid is a Ret, Elemental Shaman...
Oh man, that's too bad, isn't it? No Ret Paladin. Sorry, McConnell. Listen, here's why. I mean, like, warriors are just better. I mean, they're better at everything, and that's all there is to it. I mean, I'm sorry that if you want to join a hardcore guild, you've got to play a hardcore spec, and that means that you're re-rolling the holy. That's life.
You have a very steep hill to climb, my friends.
Yep.
Alright, let's now look at what a typical schedule might look like. Generally, you'll spend most of your time
did
farming
you say
consumables
I can't play Rhett in your guild?
You're going to be able to play Rhett in my guild, okay? I'm talking about
good.
a hardcore guild. Do you think I'm actually not going to let you play Rhett?
That's what I thought. So suck my dick, chat.
He just left. He gets scared. Listen, like, if the only reason, like, I'll tell you basically my ideology of like what I'm gonna do with my guild after we finish this video, okay?
gold to buy them, probably 3 or 4 hours a day, depending on how good you are at it, depending on how many characters you need.
You guys are gonna need to mail me all my consumables, by the way.
Typically, these guilds ran dungeons.
So I'm not gonna get
daily,
any of those
especially
that shit
early on,
myself.
get
There's
rare
no way.
recipes and things. Maybe a couple hours a day there. So basically, the further on into the game's life, the more raiding you're gonna do. So early on, your raid schedule is gonna be the easiest time you'll ever have. You might expect Onyxia 4 times a week if you have your ult and your main, and Molten Core 2 times a week. And then later, you'll be squeezing in every raid. At that point, it can be extremely hard to keep up with a hardcore raiding guild schedule.
It's not, dude. What do you mean? You go do Onyxia, boom. You go do Molten Core, boom. That's an hour. Like, what do you mean? Like, we used to literally raid. We'd raid 5 nights a week. And then Friday and Saturday night would be for all the real losers like myself. And that's whenever we'd go back and we'd do the old raids. It's like, I mean, it's so fast. What do you mean an hour? Like, no. What the fuck are you talking about? How long does it take to do Onyxia? Whenever Nax is out, do you really think Onyxia is going to take more than 15 minutes? Like, you literally just run in there with the boys and pop her off. Like, what do you... People cleared it with 3 players in vanilla. Like, how hard do you think that it really is? It's going to be a fucking joke. Only 5 nights. So we did the other 2 nights were optional, right? And that's where we'd go back and we'd do, like, keying runs and stuff like that. And it's not the time as encounter. Well, no, you have, like, people summoning and everything like that. I mean, it's not really going to be, like, a huge, like, gank fest, I don't think, unless it's, like, done on stream. And even then, you're not going to know where the summons are coming from. So it's going to be hard for people to actually really figure out how to, you know, gank and fuck things up. Travel time, dude? Well, yeah, but I mean, like, there's a lot of ways you can speed up travel time with, like, having summoners and stuff like that, you know? Just a
If you plan to enter a hardcore raiding guild, your role will also determine the amount of time that you're required to spend. Generally, the highest time investment, of course, goes to the guildmaster. They usually have the most work to do, managing officer.
And that's why the guildmaster is holding Thunder Fury, is because he's got to deal with 39 other fucking idiots. Like, dumb fucking idiots. Like, that's the best thing. Why should they run the same raids again? Because you want to get all the gear, right? I mean, you kill the boss, you don't get the gear. You kill the boss, you don't get the gear. You kill the boss, it drops. Like, that's how it works. After you do it all those times, then you come back every once in a while just to show off how good you are.
Running the bank. Raid leaders, sometimes the guildmaster will take that role, sometimes they don't, because it's also a very intensive role. You have to plan out strategies where people will go and manage everything on the fly. And then the officers, generally the officers decide the loot in advance using a loot chart. They spend a lot of time recruiting members, join in on decisions, help someone when they make a mistake, pick up the slack when the GM is too busy. Class leads, I think every hardcore raiding guild needs class leaders, and they'll be people that understand their class a lot, and they can manage specific classes, tell the warlocks what to do, tell the healers who they're going to heal, what they're going to do. They'll be in charge of a lot of people. It's good to have that spread out over the class leads. Your tanks, your DPS, and heal.
I was the class lead for warriors for a short period of time, and they really just... I remember I was the class lead for warriors whenever we only had 1 warrior in the guild. And then they were thinking about making the priest, who was our raid leader, the actual class leader for warriors, even though I was there, because I didn't know anything. So, and this isn't like Burning Crusade. And they eventually, you know, they just recruited somebody, and then I stopped raiding or whatever. I forgot exactly how it happened. But yeah, they basically made the priest class. It was bad, man. I didn't know a fucking thing, man. The only thing I knew was where all my gear dropped. That was the only thing I knew about raiding at all.
That'll be most people in the raid. Just players with good attitudes, committed to the guild. And then the social members or the benched members, there's still room for them in hardcore guilds, I think. They can help out with dungeons. They'll fill in when people
They
can't
give us
attend once in a
consumables.
while. Getting 4 people consistent is difficult. So I hope this video gave everybody some more ideas for what to expect from hardcore raiding in Classic WoW. Personally, when I joined one, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. The very final thing I'll talk about, which was where I drew the line, was this. Hardcore guilds may expect you to practice on private servers before the content releases. So what our guild had asked us to do was to copy our character onto a different private server to practice the next raid before it released on the private server that we played on, so that we could get server first on this private server.
So he's talking about doing a private server for a private server. So it's a private server.
With practicing on the next private server. That was something that, in Classic, I genuinely hope that no hardcore guilds do this. It was the only thing I've talked about in the entire video that I couldn't agree with doing.
Yeah,
so guys, do you think you'll join a hardcore guild? Am I totally wrong on all of this? Let me know in the comments. That's all I got for today. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe because I'll be making more content soon. This has been Classic Wins. Thanks for watching.
I mean, like, yeah, I think that's partially true, right? I mean, like, let's be real. Companies of leaders doesn't mean they're communist. Yeah, I don't know about them being communist. I think that obviously, you know, it's kind of a clickbait title or whatever. I mean, that's fine. Everybody does clickbait titles. But in a way, it is kind of communist, right? Because it's like everybody's working towards the same goal and, you know, vice versa. But to me personally, I mean, how are you going to run your guild? How am I going to run my guild? I'm just going to get a bunch of people. We're going to do the raids. Like, I want to have people that log on all the time, and we're just going to do the raids. It's going to be fucking easy. Like, I mean, why you don't need to. Everybody's acting like, you know, we're recruiting for some sort of like a fucking war or something. Like, let's just recruit a bunch of people, and we'll get people that log on and play all the time, and we'll just do the raids. It's just that simple, guys. There's nothing too crazy about it. Well, let's see here. When the game looks and feels like a job, I'd rather have an actual job and make cash. Look at this fucking loser casual here. Can you believe this? Like, the thing is, like, yeah, obviously it is kind of like a job. Because at least over here, in like what do you get for your job? You get like $18 or whatever. Like in WoW, you get Thunder Fury. Which one is actually better? Think about that. How many days do you intend to wear the same shirt? Probably a while, dude. I would say kind of a while. Yeah, I mean, the game looks like a job. I know that like raiding guilds and like raiding on a schedule is not for everyone. But for me, like I've raided on a schedule for a long time. And unfortunately, like now that I have like a lot of real life responsibilities, I don't know if I can raid on a schedule a whole lot, right? I mean, like the only reason I'll be able to do it in Classic is because it's going to overlap with my stream. But other than that, I stopped raiding because I just didn't have enough time for it. I get that. But, I mean, that's the way that the game goes. That's life, okay? A hobby is just like anything else. Yeah, it's just a fucking hobby. Like, people, like, they take it way too seriously. And what did it cost? Everything. Communism is a perfect system for a video game in which you can conjure food from nothing. Okay, all right. Veiled political opinion, but I see that. People don't realize you can be casual in vanilla. That's right. You absolutely can be. Vanilla is very, very casual. And vanilla is the most casual-friendly game that Blizzard has really ever made. Much more than BFA or anything like that, I would say. Sounds like one of the requirements for these guilds is that you aren't actually allowed to enjoy the game. I don't know about that, man. I don't think that's true at all. Because a lot of people enjoy the game by being really serious about the game. Would you take 20 rets to your raid? No, I mean, you can't carry that many of them. Like, you can carry, like, maybe 3 or 4. But 20 rets? God damn, dude, I don't even know what the hell you do. I mean, like, I just think that, like, obviously, yeah, sure. I mean, some people don't enjoy playing the game that way, but there's a lot of people that do. And, like, the efficiency and enjoyment of the game, and, like, the enjoyment that you get out of doing it really fast and being super efficient, and then having everybody together, like, achieving that shared goal is fucking awesome. And it's not something that you don't enjoy. It's the reason why you do enjoy it. It's kind of like, if you ever done, like, a raid or something, like a mythic raid, and, like, you finally do a boss, like, 200 times, and everybody just knows what to do. Like something happens, everybody goes left. Something happens, everybody goes right. And it feels so fucking good. It's like you're part of a synchronized swimming team and everybody's putting their leg up at the same time. It feels fucking awesome. And whenever you see everybody doing it all at the same time, there's a certain amount of fulfillment and satisfaction you get out of that. You're like, yeah, we did this, man. We fucking run this shit. And yeah, actual teamwork, exactly.